Hello and welcome to another episode of Dude, Is This Thing On? I'm Tyler Daswick, and joining me as always, my co-host and our producer, Emilio Cariotti.
As always, how's it going, guys?
Emilio, we have a good show for the people today. It's our first two-parter, right? We have a two-parter coming for...
Is it? A two-parter?
Yeah.
And our first, I feel like we're a 15-parter usually where we just go off the rails.
No, I mean, we our featured segment this week is A Way Out, the co-op video game, Prison Break video game, and we are going to split up the gameplay into two sessions. So today we're going to talk about...
Oh, yeah, that's what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't get the studio notes, so I was a little behind. I didn't get my copy.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the first half of the game, and then you and I are gonna finish it this week. So we'll come back with our final thoughts and final review next week. But we want to get our first impressions today on the featured segment. Around that, we're going to do an opener, a little bit about studio comedies, blockers.
Has nothing to do with the main feature, but
no. Just
out of left field.
Right. Well, I saw Blockers this past weekend, and it overperformed at the box office. So we're going to talk a little bit about comedies in general. Yeah, and then we're ending with the GB as always.
Okay. I got nothing for that. So, well, I got something for that, but it's something that people should have already watched, so it's going to be old news for a lot of people.
Okay. Well, sweet, man. I wanted to talk about comedies in general. I was telling you before the show started, I went and saw Blockers, which is this...
Can I ask something real quick?
Yeah.
I know very little about this movie besides the fact that John Cena is in it. Does Blockers...
Sorry.
Does Blockers... Is its name derived from the act of cock blocking? What the fuck does that mean, blockers? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Or is it like beta blockers?
It's called Blockers because they couldn't call it cock blockers.
Really?
Yes.
That's already, in my mind, that was already a bad sign of me being like, well, I can't fucking watch this. Well, like, if you can't take that plunge.
I mean, no, it's funny. I mean, they got to sell a movie, dude. But it's funny because this is probably one of the raunchier comedies I've seen in a while. It's pretty dirty, dude.
Okay.
But good. I mean, I think it's legit funny. You know how like comedies will kind of go for the big set piece, whether it's like a gross out or a stunt or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Like one set piece? No, I feel like comedies normally, if they're good, they have like a machine gun of set pieces, you know, like in The Hangover, you get tased in the face and then punched by Mike Tyson. And then, are you wearing salmon colored pants?
Yes.
Sorry, those just kind of flashed out at me from like the edge of the camera. Very distracting.
I tried to stretch out.
Okay. Yeah.
No. But that's no. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. They kind of build to these set pieces where like they go for like the huge, broad, almost like old school laugh where you either look at something really gross, something that is like really like physically painful. You know, they kind of like have these big like power swings in addition to all like the banter and like the zingers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. This one has probably some of the funnier like big broad set pieces that I've seen in a studio comedy in a while. I really recommend the movie. I think it's really smart. It has some cool like sort of role reversal in that for a huge portion of the movie we're following three like teen girls as they like try to lose their virginity on prom night instead of like the super bad American Pie kind of.
I was
deal.
about to say it's like I guess the girl perspective of like super bad.
Yeah, it's similar to that, and then you get some parents too. That's the premise of the movie. The parents find out the girls have this pact to lose their virginity, so they set out to try to stop them and like preserve their innocence.
See, I totally believe you when you say that it's a good comedy, like you came away from it like laughing or whatever, but just you describing it to me, it sounds fucking terrible. Just because it's like, do I really want to see John Cena try and like keep his daughter from losing her virginity? Like, not to be the Debbie Downer here, but why the fuck do parents in these movies care so much like when their kids are having sex, man? It's like, I feel like parents would just be like, oh, well, don't get pregnant, and that would sort of be the end of it. They would go on like a tirade to crash their prom. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, so I am glad that you make that point because the movie addresses that very directly, where you're kind of looking at this conflict and being like, what's the big deal? The movie is about that. That's all I'll say. I really think it's worth seeing.
You can't tell me what the deal is.
Well, no, I think like the movie kind of presents it looks at like, why do we treat sex as such a big deal in the first place? And the movie kind of talks about that from a lot of different viewpoints and perspectives. And in that way, that's why it's smart. It's not just smart because it's funny.
That's good.
It's smart.
It's a comedy with a message.
Yeah. But I wanted to bring it up because I was walking out of the theater and I had a similar feeling coming out of game night, though game night at the time felt more like a blip. But this year already we have two like very strong studio comedies, and I was like, man, when is the last time I went to the theater and saw like an R-rated hard R studio comedy and really thought it was worthwhile? And man, I was going back through the yearly box offices, and the past 3 years, dude, have been like pretty weak in terms of comedy. Last year, the bright spot was Girls Trip. That was a surprise, but
which one was that one again? That sounds so familiar, but I cannot fucking place it.
Girls Trip was the all black cast. The three women take a trip to New Orleans and basically get up to some shenanigans.
Who the fuck was that starring? I have no recollection of that at all.
You know who's in it, man, is Tiffany Haddish, who's kind of like this breakout comedy actress now. That was kind of her big break.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
No, yeah.
I'm really flexing my comedy chops here by letting you know that I have no idea who that person is.
No, it's cool, but it was actually a top 10 grossing movie of last summer. It like super overperformed and turned out to be pretty good. But
damn, all right. Well, fuck me for not knowing that.
But amid that, we're getting movies like Daddy's Home 2, Ooh. Bad Moms, like Bad.
Did you see any of these?
No, dude, I did not.
No, I fucking nope.
Like Bad Moms Christmas, Trainwreck, which at the time people really liked, but I feel like now has kind of like seen some backlash.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw that, not in theaters. I haven't seen like a big budget comedy probably since like This Is the End. Maybe 22 Jump Street. Actually, dude, I might have seen that in theaters, but I cannot honestly remember.
Yeah, so 22 Jump Street is pretty solid. That I had to reach back to 2014, and then man, I remember us talking about This Is the End when that movie is really funny. That
was like a sleeper hit as well too.
So good, and that's 5 years ago now, 2013.
Damn.
Yeah. So
I'm 24. We're rethinking some life choices here. Fuck. Is it too late to become an alcoholic?
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh.
I don't like to think about that. Oh fuck. Yeah, I think This Is the End was probably the last one that I saw because I saw Trainwreck. The thing is, I see a lot of these comedies because I'll be bored on a Saturday night, and I'll just be like, oh fuck it, I guess I'll watch Trainwreck. But there's no way in hell I would ever see that like in theaters.
Right.
Nothing against like the movie, I guess. It was a fine movie. I can't really remember it, but like big budget comedies just don't draw like first off, movies just don't draw people to the fucking theater anymore because it's become overpriced like shit, and theaters know it, so they've been trying to like counteract it with cool chairs and like a fucking, open bar.
Yeah.
But like even that's not saving it. But I think comedies of all the movies are the first to get like the axe, where people aren't going to show up to a fucking comedy in the theater, really,
Yeah, like I mean, now it feels like more than ever you kind of save. I think if you're an average moviegoer, you save the theater for a certain kind of movie. Like you'll go see, again, if you're like an average person, you'll go see the comic book movie in the theater. You'll go see the Christopher Nolan movie. Like certain people will have the draw where you got to see it right away, but
that's because those are like movie experience movies. Like I don't need to get my yucks in a room full of like 50 other people. It's just as funny to me personally if I'm watching it on my phone,
right?
While I'm waiting for the bus with the urine caked on the seats to show up so I can get fucking home. I don't like need to see that in a Cineplex. But if you're watching, like, Transformers is your bag, man, and you're watching Transformers on your phone, you're going to lose a little bit of that that you would get in the theater being eye fucked by Michael Bay for 2 hours.
Yeah. But anyway, like that's kind of it's a narrative that kind of goes both ways. Like coupled with Game Night, it's kind of cool. We have, you know, 2 like very strong kind of like big budget comedies that are doing okay. Blockers overperformed a little bit by like 5 million or so. It made 21 million at the box office last weekend. Like most high end projections were around 15. So that's kind of cool.
Well, you know, yeah. We'll see if it peters out, you know.
Right.
We'll see if it makes it past the next week.
Yeah, but the big revelation for me, man, was like I don't think I really realized what a sort of like poor comedy stretch we were sitting in until these movies came out.
Well, I've been supplementing with just like stand-up comedy, you know? And we were talking about this before we started recording, but like I've said it before on the show, I'll fucking say it again, golden age of like A, stand-up comedy, and B, television, where you can really do some tight comedy in 23 minutes plus commercials. You know, you don't really need to do like a big comedic movie because, like I said, it's not a draw. You're not going to make as much money off of that. So everything's shifting to like really artistic stand-up performances and TV shows either on like Netflix or even like FX and NBC. NBC has always been like a comedic powerhouse, and people are getting their yucks from fucking Saturday Night Live, like Alec Baldwin impersonations and Seth Meyers and shit like that, you know?
Yeah, and with all the like streaming deals, Netflix now like are handing out hour specials like nobody's business, and then they have that stand-ups bank. They call it the stand-ups, and then they're just kind of giving these smaller time comics half hours in the middle of that.
Yeah, right. That's like that was HBO's like bread and butter for the past 25 years.
Yeah,
so now they're like camping in on that.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something to that, and like both Game Night and Blockers. Blockers has Leslie Mann in it, but I mean both like pretty like untraditional comedic casts. Like Game Night has Kyle Chandler, Rachel McAdams, Jesse Plemons, and Blockers has John Cena in it. You know, so like yeah, like and those movies are both really funny, but man, like you know, we're not getting like Aziz Ansari in movies anymore. Whereas like I think if it's not like he was in a ton, but if Aziz Ansari,
smaller stuff anyway.
Yeah, like if he had come up, you know, 15 years ago, instead of doing TV and stand up, his path might have inevitably been toward movies instead.
Yeah, I mean so Daddy's Home fucking. When we were in high school, it was like, you know, kind of petering out Will Ferrell's end of his career, but he still had like a couple of huge fucking movies like when we were in high school, like early and middle school, like Step Brothers and The Other Guys, which, god damn it, that movie's so fucking funny. I know people don't dig it, but that movie is really fucking funny.
Yeah.
But like he was the poster child for comedians who made movies, and that's how they made it in the biz. But now, yeah, Aziz Ansari is a perfect fucking example. He's got Master of None,
yeah,
Masters of None, whatever the fuck it's called. And that is kind of like the poster child where you just have like a semi-biographical fucking like half-hour special that you do, you know, for Netflix. You just pump out a season every 2 years, and that's it.
Right, and you have your you know, speak of the devil, you have your Louis, you have your Marins, you know, Donald Glover makes Atlanta now.
Oh, yeah. Mark, okay. First off, is it Mark Maron or Mark Marin? Because I swear to God, I hear it 1,000 different ways. And B, I did not know that he had his own show. Is it any good? Because as like a podcaster and a comedian, I don't really find him all that funny.
A, it's Marin.
Okay. Good.
And
clear the air.
And B, his IFC show I've never watched, but he's a supporting actor in this Netflix show I really like. It's right up my alley. It's about wrestling. It's called Glow. Did you ever check out Glow?
No.
Oh,
no,
it's pretty solid. Allison Brie is the star, and she's very good.
I love Allison Brie.
Yeah, dude.
She's foxy.
She's a fox.
Fucking Netflix just like advertises so much shit. Like I can't keep. Every time I turn on my fucking Xbox to watch Netflix, it's like another advertisement for like a just shitty looking thing that I can't get into. I can't tell what's shit and what's good on Netflix. I have to wait like 6 months for people to be like, oh, did you ever see that show? It was really good. And then I go, no. And they'll be like, oh, you fucking idiot. I'm like, well, how the hell was I supposed to discern it, sift it through the river of garbage that's on Netflix to find the couple of nuggets of gold that come out like every 6 fucking months? Make me feel stupid.
Yeah, no, I always find they push their crappy movies on me a lot. I don't want those.
I don't want it. Give me the good stuff. Stop greenlighting everything, you fucking idiots. You're making this too difficult.
Yeah.
I have to like work for my shows now. I have to be like a producer. I have to like greenlight fucking Netflix's shows with my viewing time. Be like, I'm not gonna watch this. Kill it. Karen, tell the writers to axe the show.
Well, listen, that is I mean, I guess that's Blockers. If listeners want to check it out, you can go check it out in theaters. I recommend it. It's good. Good little comedy moment right now. But,
okay.
Man, you want to get into A Way Out?
No.
Okay. That'll be the show, everyone.
Cool. Bye, guys. No, I'm good. Yeah. Fuck it. Yeah, let's dive into the first 2 hours that we played.
Yeah. So to catch everyone up, A Way Out is developed by the studio called Hazelight. Are you familiar with Hazelight? You kind of keep up with these a little bit more than I do.
No. I mean, it's a really small production thing. I think they're out of Sweden.
Yeah.
I think is the director of the game Faraz something.
Yeah,
the Swedish Lebanese dude. I think he's the showrunner. He's the director for that production company as well.
Yeah, I got him right here. So it's Joseph Faraz.
Yeah.
We'll say Faraz because that's what you said first. And he did.
Don't look to me for pronunciation. I couldn't get Mark Marin right.
So Joseph did, friend of the show, Joseph.
As always.
Right. He did. So he did a Way Out with Hazelight, but then he also did Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons in 2013, which is kind of an interesting little predecessor for this game because that's another like dual protagonist sort of structure.
Similar structure.
Yeah, but one person controls both brothers at the same time.
Yeah, I heard a lot of buzz about that when it came out, but I never got around to playing it.
Really good game, man. It has a great ending and a legitimately great game ending.
Good. Well, so this Joseph Faraz, his background is he started off as an actual like director, movie director and television, I guess.
Oh wow.
And so his thing was he saw what desperate straits like this single player market for video games was kind of in, and he took it upon himself to really sort of make like narrative driven over like technologically driven like games. And whatever you think of the guy, because he kind of got into a little bit of controversy at I think it was like the E3. I think it was like the last E3 something. It was some sort of like award show. All I know is like Jeffrey Knight was fucking hosting it. And I don't know if he was drunk or not, but he essentially just like takes the microphone. He pulls like a Kanye and he takes the microphone like during production and he just starts blasting like video game companies for being fucking terrible and like how they're so caught up with money that they just all they want to do is like pump in loot boxes and shit. And some people were like, oh, this guy's a fucking idiot, he's like drunk. But like, you know, he sort of had like a Rudy moment like afterwards where everyone was like, Joseph, and he became like kind of a superstar to some people because he told like essentially EA to go fuck itself for ruining the Battlefront like games. Well, I kind of had to give him a slow clap there.
Wow, that's cool.
But yeah, it made him very polarizing, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like what I appreciate about him just from afar, these two games in like, I guess, conjunction, kind of there's like a cool little like through line with the dual protagonists. And this one is, so A Way Out is a prison break game that is co-op only. So you can't play it single player. It's split screen enabled, which, man, like, I don't know if I'm going to sound like a super retro gamer, but games don't do split screen anymore.
No, they don't. That's like a big... I hate to break this to you, Tyler, but you're not on the forefront of this.
I know.
This has been like a big thing that people have been talking about for a long time, that like, you know, if it is a co-op enabled game, it's co-op online only, and you can't do like System Link or play from the same box anymore because let's be real, people don't fucking do that. I don't have any friends, and I still don't do that with like the dog. You know, it's like it's like I have to find people online and make friends with the stupid 12-year-old who's saying the N-word for whatever fucking reason, like while we're playing Halo. Whatever, more power to him, I guess. But yeah, that's a big thing that a lot of people have just been pissed off about lately. It's just like, it's the death of split screen. And here you go, a perfectly functional, well, I don't know, there's a few hiccups we'll get to, but like a good old fashioned split screen. And you know, honestly, I thought it would be really jarring because growing up, split screen, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm just like probably dropped on my head too many times as a kid, but like split screen, I couldn't do it. I would always inevitably be looking at the wrong fucking screen, and then I'd crash and die in Star Fox or get shot in the head like as Master Chief or whatever, and I'd suck at it. Honestly, playing this game with you yesterday didn't have any fucking problems. In fact, it was actually pretty helpful because you would be like, oh, dude, come over here and look at this. And I would just look at your screen instead of walking all the way over and be like, oh, okay, cool. And like, it actually was really useful. So I didn't find it jarring at all.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that because Emilio and I are playing this game online, but the game keeps it in split screen anyway. So I can see in real time what Emilio is doing over on his side while I'm doing whatever I need to do. But it is funny because I now am recalling so many moments where I was like, oh, dude, you need to come check out this like grate I'm looking at or whatever, just so we could break out of this prison. And you wouldn't, and I'd be like, all right, well, I guess we got everything we need.
No, I don't mean to be a dick, but I just did a quick glance over, and I'm like, all right, it's great. Yeah, that's great. And like, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna continue shanking this guy with a chisel.
Yeah.
Do you mind? And I guess you didn't do that to me, but I would just be like, oh, dude, over here. And then all you had to really do was look over, and half the time I'd be like, oh, no, never mind. It's just me being stupid.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's super helpful at some points.
Yeah, but even with that, we did have to communicate a lot playing the game, I think.
Yeah.
You know, we had to time certain things and everything. That's when I felt like the game was at its best. I was thinking, you know, we've played. I was trying to think of other games we've played cooperatively. We've played Resident Evil before co-op.
Yes, that's how we bonded, actually.
Yes.
That was a love story in the making.
We've also, I think we've done a Far Cry before. We
might have done a Far Cry.
I think we've done.
I trained you Master Yoda style on Modern Warfare 2, actually.
Oh, you're right.
I remember you were like, you slept over my house in like sophomore year of high school with your comic books and your chocolate milk, and then you're like, hey, can we just play a shooter with me so I don't like suck at shooters? And I'm like, yeah, all right, let's just like blow through the campaign of Modern Warfare 2. You'll probably be pretty decent by the end of it, and you were. So that was my little like grasshopper moment.
Yeah,
where I was like, snatch the Xbox controller from my hand, Danielson.
Yeah. Okay, so I was thinking though, like, is this different from other co-op games, other co-op campaigns? And the more I think about it, I think what makes it a little bit different. Not that I don't know if it's like in another class or anything, but I do feel like it requires, at least from my perception, you might disagree, but I felt like it required a little bit more coordination and communication between the two of us than something like a Far Cry or Modern Warfare would, it's just two people trying to like kill the people instead of one person trying to kill the people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I've played games like before that are co-op that incorporate elements of like that, but they're very, very small, and you'll only have to deal with it for a second. But this game, like, hinges on it. Like, the whole point is, like, two guys break out of a prison, and they need to rely on each other to break out of the prison so that they can survive in the wild for the next part that I'm sure is going to come up.
Yeah.
But, like, maybe 10 minutes into the game, you're getting your ass handed to you by, like, a big white supremacist in prison. And after I was done doing my set of push-ups, because physical fitness is very important in the prison yard,
absolutely,
I ran over and I'm like, I'm coming, Tyler. It's okay. I got my push-ups out of the way. I'm fucking coming. Push some crazy guys with afros out of the way, jump into the fucking thing, and we just beat the shit out of these like Nazi-looking motherfuckers like together. And it required like, okay, I'm gonna throw him to you now, and then I like, you know, WrestleMania like Red Rover this fucker over to you, and then you catch him and give him a couple licks, and then you send him back to me and bullshit. And that was like just like the little beginning, and then we had to coordinate so that you could get like a chisel or something.
Right.
From the one guy who was just like chiseling in the other room or whatever the fuck he was doing. And that was really cool. That's really when the mechanic like shined for me, where I essentially had to play like lookout and distract the nurse with my regaling tales of how my tummy hurts, and you had to like sneak around her and like get the chisel and stuff like that. And so that required like a massive amount of coordination.
Yeah.
And that's just really when it shined. Like, I've played other co-op games where there's like a little bit of that. Like, I don't know why, but what comes to mind is there's like a part in Gears of War 2 where you have to like pick up a box and you have to move it like 50 feet, but it requires 2 people to pick up like the box, and you have to like move it around and both shoot people at like the same time. And it's just like that, but that only lasts about 30 seconds out of like, you know, a 9 or 10 hour game. Meanwhile, this entire game is pretty much just like scenarios where that gets like reused over and over again.
Yeah, and I thought my favorite moment, it probably wasn't the most fun, but my favorite moment of the game is so far is there was a point in our escape where we had to climb this vertical.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Shaft. Yeah, I mean,
it was cool.
It was cool. So you had to sort of like time. It was a quick time sort of event. But you had to time your button presses in sync.
Yeah,
with
you
one
essentially
another.
had this like just to describe it to the audience of all 0 of you fuckers. How about you subscribe for once? Jesus. You essentially have like a golf swing meter, like Tiger Woods fucking 2K.
Yeah.
And you do this like you do the stupid like childhood thing where you go back to back and climb up like a really tight like air shaft thingy.
Yeah.
And if you fuck it up, you fall to your death. And we did that a couple times.
Yeah.
Like you have to do it, and we just like barely got it. I don't know if there was like a delay in like latency or something like that, but I'd be like, okay, and now, and then I would move, and then 30 seconds later you would move, and I'd be like, God damn, like. And God, there was like 2 or 3 times where I would miss it or whatever, and my heart would sink. I'd be like, oh fuck, and then we'd fall to our death.
Me
and
too.
It'd just be like, yeah.
Yeah. No, it was.
The pressure was on. It was tense. My butthole was puckered for a good like 5 minutes while we got through that air vent.
Yeah, but you know what was cool about it is you kind of had to delegate a little bit. Like I had to kind of I was like, you know what? Because we were both trying to be like, okay, like 1, 2, whatever. And it didn't work first couple times.
No. You just need one person to be like, hey, shut the fuck up, I got this.
Right. I just kind of had to like let you take the lead, and you guided us up. Which I thought was cool. Like that was a cool little like improvised sort of teamwork moment, sort of apart from the game a little bit. But I mean, I thought that was cool, and the game was at its best. I feel like
definitely.
Yeah, you know, and the sneaking around stuff, like we had to keep lookout for each other while we were trying to like, you know,
kill, like knock out guards and shit like that.
Knock out guards, like get out of our cells, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was really fun too. The whole like actually Shawshanking your way out of the toilet was like really fun, because I would like, you both have to do it. You both have to like chisel your way out through the toilet. I'm gonna get through this real quick because I just thought of an even cooler part that we could talk about.
Okay.
But essentially, I had to stick my head out and just like make sure guards weren't coming. But I guess I'll talk about that later. There are some aspects of the game that like kind of annoyed me, where I was like, oh, this is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
And one of them happened during that moment. But what was really cool was, remember that one time we had to go get that like wrench or whatever, and we eventually got like the wrench. And like there was a couple like quick moments where we kind of got out of sync, because the game, you benefit from the game if you just stick right next to each other so you can both experience the same things, and you get a good like 30 seconds to just talk it over with your partner to be like, all right, what are we gonna do here, blah 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 blah. But like the objective was get the wrench back to yourselves. Like groovy, I got this. Got the wrench, like clunked the fucking metal detector so I can get it out, and I was like, all right, I'm going free. Book it.
Yeah.
At some point, it gets to you, like you have the wrench, and you're like, oh, well, I'll just walk through this thing. And then random moment occurs, you get pulled aside for like a random screening. I'm like, oh, fuck, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'll pass the wrench. Yeah, I run over and just like grab it quickly, and then I sneak through, and I'm like, oh, good, thank God. All right, that's over. I'm going back to my cell, have fun with those 2 like Goombas like frisking your balls. And so I run over to my cell. I get in my cell, the fucking warden's there, and he's like, all right, we're doing an inspection. And I was like, oh shit, Tyler, you need to run over here quickly. They're gonna fucking grab my balls, they're gonna find this goddamn wrench. And so you had to like make your way through this stupid thing, run all the way up, and literally the last second before they cut my gonads to find where this wrench was hidden, I stick it through the bars of the prison cell, and then you grab it and duck into your fucking cell. And we just like barely tip of our dick made it with the wrench.
Yeah, no, it was cool, and it could have only been accomplished in co-op and us like on the mic talking to each other.
Yeah, like coordinating.
Yeah, and quick thinking. It was very cool, and that was the one part where I was like, oh man, like a single player game could not have done that. Like
No,
that kind of like
absolutely not.
thrill and like kind of desperation. It was just, it was so slick, man. It was really cool. I think some of the kind of more like established broad time to work together moments almost aren't as cool as that. Like there was
because they're expected, and you're sitting in a room and you're talking it over, being like, oh, well, should we do this and should we do this? And it seems unnatural because like instead of swabbing the deck of tar, we're sitting there with like two pieces of broken pipe that we're obviously going to use to like club a guard to death right in front of like 3 guards, but because we haven't started that sequence yet, they're not going to come over and bother us, so it just looks like weird, you know?
Yeah, and more than that too, like it is the kind of game where there's only one right answer. Like you and I can't like put our heads together and be like, all right, how are we going to do this? And kind of devise our own solution. We have to kind of figure out what the game wants us to do.
There's like one or two ways to do everything, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's more. Maybe there's more and we're just fucking idiots. I do know at one point where we got that wrench through that metal detector, that little grate that you were talking about I figure is another way you could have done it. Instead of deactivating the metal detector, you could have just slid the wrench through the grate, and then you could have just gone through the metal detector, picked it up, and then walked away.
That's a good point. Yeah. That was one part where I actually was figuring that out, but
while I figured out the other.
Yeah, but you went off and like went through this door. And we're like, oh, I can cut this wire. And you just cut the wire and the metal detector turned off. And you're like, yeah, we don't need your plan anymore. It's like, all right.
I felt that, well, because at that point we were still trying to figure out how the fuck to get the wrench, because there was something that was glitching out in the game that wasn't allowing us to do it the correct way.
Yeah.
So we were like lost for a second. And I go into the power room and there's a bunch of wires and it's like, rip the wire out. And I'm like, oh, this is easy. Tyler, go stand over by the wrench. I'm going to cut the power. And in the confusion, I bet you'll be able to pick up the wrench. And you were like, what? And I'm like, I'll cut the power and you can pick up the wrench. And you're like, but it's like 2 PM, dude. There's gonna be sunlight here. And I'm like, well, whatever, just fucking let's try it.
Yeah.
And so I ripped it, and then it showed like a little cutscene of the metal detector going off, and I was like, oh, I guess that deactivates the metal. Whatever, we got that figured out. Let's just figure out how to get the fucking wrench, you know? And then that was cool, but then it also kind of took it out of the moment too, because it's like, well, because the game glitched out really badly at this one part, I now feel stupid for not being able to figure out how to just grab a fucking wrench off a table, you know, with my 2 opposable thumbs.
Yeah, the game has let's just get into it. Like the game has some bugs.
It's pretty buggy.
You know, like in that situation, it was really weird. For some reason, when I talked to, so the wrench has this guy who's looking over it, and I could talk to him, and while I was talking to him and he was turned away, you could go in behind him and take the wrench just fine, and that's how he did it. But the first time we tried it, we thought it wouldn't work the other way around, because while you were talking to him and distracting him, I turned around and tried to take the wrench, and he would always catch me and turn around and be like, get out of here.
Yeah, but he would break conversation with me, which let me think like that was a glitch. Like on my screen, I don't know if you'd be able to see it, but he would still be talking to me on my screen, but on your screen, he would be like completely turned around, like yelling at you for taking his wrench. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. How the fuck is he doing both, you know? So
yeah,
clearly that was a design flaw. And it popped up a couple of other times where like, there's a couple of times where you have to take out 2 guards at the same time and you go right and I go left, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to like knock them out. And as soon as I would get too close, like a guard who had no earthly business being on top of like one of the beds would like teleport onto the bed and be like, hey, stop right there. And then that would be the end of the sequence. Like we'd lose.
Yeah.
And that happened like twice where someone would just be like teleport behind me and be like, oh, I've got you now. And I'd be like, what the fuck, dude? You weren't there 30 seconds ago. Like what the hell happened? And it would just be like weird and take me out of the moment. So unfortunately, yeah, but it's like a small studio, like they can't like probably beta test like as well as, you know, EA. They're not gonna have like a free trial demo for this fucking thing. So there's gonna be some shit's gonna happen, you know?
Yeah. I want to ask you this. It's somewhat related to this idea of like, you know, we're not sure if we have a lot of options, and it kind of wants us to do certain things. So there's one in the section we played. There was one pivotal choice where we had to get across this bridge, and we could either sneak under the bridge or we could steal a cop car and drive through. And the game positions that decision as like a difference between the two characters. You kind of play like this rational thinker kind of guy, and I play like this
hothead,
right?
Hothead Italian.
Yeah, the Vincenzo,
Leonardo. Bene.
And I'm really unclear if that's ever gonna like play into the game. But it was like Leo wants to, you know, knock out the cop and take the car
and go over the bridge and try and sneak through like 100 cops and like a colonel in the army.
Yeah, while Vincent wants to like, you know, sneak underneath and dodge all the stuff. And I was thinking about it later, and I don't think it really mattered which one we chose.
There was no wrong answer, which is why I went with yours, because like if it's all going to go tits up anyway and we're going to have a big chase sequence, might as well be in a cop car. And I literally told you that. As soon as the sequence was done and it gave us the option, like choose Vinny's path or choose Leo's path, turn to page 37.
Yeah.
Before you even finish the sentence of what do you want to do, I'm like, let's do your plan. And you're like, oh, really? Because obviously the smart thing to do is to not take the cop car and sneak underneath the tunnel.
Yeah.
I know that. You know that. We're not idiots, obviously. This is a stealth part. But if like nothing bad is gonna happen either way, like we'll make it either way, then fuck it. Let's just steal the cop car and like cause some mayhem. It's a video game, you know?
Yeah. No,
and that was my rationale. So like I broke character just because I thought your option would be more fun.
And it was fun.
It was fun.
I just wish, like, you know, for a co-op game, and I know this is probably a lot to ask for a little studio like this, but if you're going to give choices like that, especially in a co-op situation where we are like deliberating and potentially will disagree on certain things and want to do stuff, like make some consequences. So then something can kind of carry forward where, you know, if I'm like, oh man, like Emilio was right, like we should have done that, or like, oh man, like,
or if I was like, fuck, we should have snuck underneath the tunnel, I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Or like, I should have advocated for my opinion more, like, you know, then it's something really cool and different.
Because I think you raise a good point. I don't think I would have been able to convince you so easily if there was some real world consequence where you're like, no dude, we have to do this right, like fuck the fun, it's more important that we get like the treasure of gold that's underneath the troll bridge, like we kill the troll. And I'd be like, fuck that, let's just blow shit up. And you're like, no, we have to do it the rational way. And then you convince me that way because there's actual, like, consequence. So, I don't know. Maybe there will be, like, later in the game or something like that. Yeah. Like, it'll get more difficult. I really don't know too much about this game going in because that's been my take on most things entertainment-wise the past 4 or 5 years. Just, like, going blind. Hopefully, but for a smaller game, like, studio like this, that takes up a lot of like manpowers, like creating all these different scenarios, and it probably takes a lot of assets and shit too. So who knows? Fingers crossed. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't.
Yeah. You know how I see it playing out is, so we chose the hothead's decision, and I can see like in the world of the character, if we keep like doing things the hothead's way, then like in the story, your character could get like resentful or something like that, and that could play out. But I don't
see that really happening.
I don't see that really happening, and it just, again, like we're sort of in like this gaming moment. I feel like where with story-driven games, the player is always taken into account. Like BioShock, the narrative is so good because it toys with the idea of the player being involved in the story. And you kind of get those little meta-narratives a lot in indie games like Inside and the Stanley Parable, and like these little like studios that play with the idea, like the mechanic of playing the game factors into the story.
It factors into it, yeah. I like that.
Yeah, and I feel like this game, my sense is so far, it almost wants us to do the opposite. It kind of wants us to forget that, and it kind of wants us to embody these characters and really be like, what would Leo do? What would Vincent do? And
I think that's a testament to the director, because his normal medium is film. So you don't. I mean, there are some movies that let you participate as an audience member, like in the movie. You know, whatever gimmick. Normally, it's like gimmicky shit, and it doesn't really pan out. But for the most part, like good dramas and stuff like that, you are absorbed into the world, and you lose what makes you Tyler, and you become what makes you Ramathor the killer, and whatever the fuck this movie is, or whatever, right? And I think because right, Ramathor. I think because of his medium and his experience, and what he wants from games is like really good story driven, to the fact that it's like playing a movie, and that's sort of what this is. This is almost like a make your own adventure sort of like video game, which is why I made that stupid turn to page 37 joke about 10 minutes ago that probably didn't land.
I got you.
Okay, good. All 0 of our audience members will fucking love it. But yeah, I think that is because of where he's coming from and what he wants from it. So we're not gonna get that participatory like factor, because I don't think that's what he's aiming for like at all. I think we're gonna have to play like Leo or Vincenzo, but I just wish that it like there was some consequence to that. Like we dictated their fate in some way by choosing, you know, because like I said, like you feel, I didn't feel like there was any wrong answer, so I was just like, fuck it, I'll just do the fun one, even though it may not be cinematically appropriate.
Yeah.
Like if I'm really going to make this a movie in front of me and I control the character sort of scenario, I know that going the car route, like Dukes of Hazzarding off a fucking bridge like we did, isn't really probably a good director's choice for this movie, quote unquote. But if there's no consequence, then fuck it. You know, budget's already paid for.
Yeah, no, that's a really smart point. And I think that is my big hope for the second half of the game, is I hope that it kind of turns it all at the end and says, yeah, it all mattered, and it
something, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I hope
Hopefully.
I hope that we as the players and as the team are involved in what happens at the end. I think that would be really cool.
All right. Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah. That's A Way Out. I mean, you can get it pretty much anywhere you buy video games. But what's cool, it should be added, is we only had to buy it once.
Yep, that's true. I'm playing for free off of your gracious dime.
Yeah. So that is a cool mechanic of the game for something that requires co-op. They don't screw you over and make you buy 2.
Yeah, it's actually in the trailer too. So while I was downloading like my segment of the game that I needed to play it, like, you know, Joseph Faraz like came on and was like talked about his game and shit like that, and then at the end he's like, oh, and here's the kicker, you do not need to pay, haha. You know, like that weird Swedish Lebanese accent. And I was like, all right, cool, I'm glad that like somebody's kind of getting that picture, that I shouldn't have to play a game if it's required that I play fucking co-op, you know, because otherwise I'm paying $60 and say I don't have any friends, I'm an idiot, and my grandmother, you know, I'm a 6-year-old kid, my grandmother bought me this game for Christmas, and now the family's out $60 because I can't play this stupid game on anything but co-op. It just doesn't make any sense, you know?
Yeah.
So, hats off, dude. Hats off, Joseph.
Yeah, it's pretty good so far. That's A Way Out. Emilio, the grab bag. What do you got?
Lord of the Rings. That's all I did this weekend. I watched all 3 Lord of the Rings extended edition. I had no sex because those two don't, that statement does not pair well with a loss of virginity. But yeah, so there's just the movies in general are like anywhere from 2.5 to like almost 3 hours each, and then on top of that you got another like 3 hours, 2.5 hours of like extended content on each movie, which I think tallied up is 11 hours of extended content plus the roughly 9-ish, you know, 8.5-ish hours of the actual movies. So your weekend's like fucking gone, dude. I just like cleaned up the house with it playing in the background because, let's be honest, I've seen them multiple times.
Yeah.
And so I guess my grab bag is quit your day job and like clear your schedule and then just watch these fucking movies because they're really cool to rewatch after not seeing a Lord of the Rings movie in probably like 8 years. Yeah.
I rewatched every extended edition back to back in college once, and dude, it's just like, I mean, the movies are incredible. They're so good.
Fuck yeah.
They hold up incredibly well. They're all this year, Return of the King will be 15 years old, dude.
Jesus Christ.
Is that crazy?
Return of the King.
Yeah. And think about how good it looks, and like it holds up so well. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, that's the movie magic of practical fucking effects, Peter Jackson, you hack. If you did it right the first time, why the fuck would you change the formula and say, oh, whatever, that's a different time.
That is it.
My girlfriend fucking hated it. She does not like Lord of the Rings, and I'm liking her a little less now.
Oh, what? How do you...
Yeah, she didn't like it. She just couldn't get into it. Which, I mean, whatever. I don't blame her. We were watching the extended, which I guess was a rookie mistake. We should just watch the like unedited ones first.
Yeah.
So that was my fault. Now I've ruined the franchise, and she'll probably never get into it. But she just kept finding like little criticisms, which, goddamn, I was like, just watch the movie. All right, okay, I get it. It's a fantasy, and the CGI isn't like perfect because it's like 15 fucking years old. But you know, just enjoy the magic of the cinema. Yeah. And she was totally checked out, and she was on her phone. And it made me cry. I'm not gonna lie. I shed a tear.
It's a lot to as a newcomer. It's a lot to ask of someone to buy into. It's just so huge.
Well, she wanted. I didn't even force her. I didn't fucking put a gun to a 9 to her fucking head and be like, "We're watching this shit, babe. I don't give a shit if you want to watch Parks and Rec." She came to me and she was like, "Let's watch Lord of the Rings." And at first I was like, "I don't. Come on, you're not. It's 9 hours, and I just, I've seen it so many times." But she's like, "No. I want to. People have been talking about it. The movie of the century, blah blah blah." I'm like, "All right, okay." So the first one's on Netflix. I guess I watched the first one, the non-extended, but whatever. We watched the first one on Netflix. About 40 minutes in, she was on her phone. And I'm like, oh, I get it. They're in the Shire, and it's kind of boring for right now, but I promise it picks up. She was like, whatever. So she made it past the first one, and then a couple of lookups from her phone into the second movie, but then that was it. I watched the third one entirely by myself.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Now I'm sad.
Fucking swing and a miss.
Well, that's Lord of the Rings. You know where to find them. First one's on Netflix. That's cool.
Yeah.
Dude, my grab bag pick, I was telling you about it as we were playing the game. So the John Krasinski directed horror movie, A Quiet Place, came out last weekend. We were talking about box office earlier. First of all, this did great. It made $50 million. That's
awesome.
Which is
what was the budget? I bet like nothing.
It was 17 million.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's really good. Dude, this movie's really good. People were asking me about it at work today, and my takeaway is I don't go see a lot of horror movies in the theater, and the ones I do go see, I'm often like, I'm so scared and distraught that I walk out and I'm like, I'm just glad it's over.
Right. I don't like that experience. That's why I always watch them at home.
Yeah. This one, man, was fun. It was a fun horror movie, and I went with some friends, and like we were like grabbing onto each other. It's so tense at times, and the premise is like distant enough. Like a lot of people have the hang up of horror movies. I don't really, but it's like, oh, it could happen in real life, and that's why it's scary. Like
no, I never felt that.
I didn't feel that either.
I don't think any horror movies really actually hit that note at all ever.
Yeah, I'm the same way. But this one is like so far away, like monsters with super hearing that kill you if you make a sound. Like, that's just so distant. That isn't a concern. So you can really just kind of like sit, get into the world, and then just have a good time. And it's cool. It's another one too where like it gets kind of silly. It's probably. It's like half
on purpose or like
I don't know. It's it's halfway between like an A movie and a B movie. And but the B movie stuff comes into play where they're like, all right, we have a kind of cool gimmicky sort of premise where no one can make a noise. So let's just like throw everyone into a random like situation. So like every what if thing in your head of like, oh, how would that work if they were like in the water? And they couldn't like splash. They do that in the movie. Like
they test out like different things and like
like everything where you're like, oh man, it would be crazy if you had to go.
A bunch of broken bottles were on the ground and you needed to like sneak around it. Yeah,
right. Like if you stubbed your toe, like like it doesn't get that. It doesn't get that like low stakes.
If you accidentally sit on a whoopee cushion, what happens? Dead. Oh fuck.
What were his last words? He loves you very much.
You have to kind of like keep his humility just a little bit. Be like, God, they can't know. They can't know this is how their dad does. Oh shit! God damn it! If only. All right, cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's good. That's that's a Quiet Place. It's in theaters.
Cool. All right, I guess I'll have to check that out. I'm so behind on my theater game, man. I just like there's 3 movies out that I was like, I'm definitely gonna go see that, and then I have not seen it.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a pretty solid time. And then coming up, we're getting into blockbuster season, and Super Troopers is coming out.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited for that. I've heard some good things because, like, well, I've heard some good things from Reddit, which fucking like a whole fistful of salt with that. But everyone on Reddit, the hive mind was like, oh, it's actually like a good sequel. It's not like Anchorman 2 or the fucking I don't know. Other dumb, shitty
Dumb and Dumber 2?
Dumb and Dumber 2 or whatever, right? Like where,
yeah.
I mean, sequels in a comedy is like just like a death sentence in 99.99% of scenarios. I honestly can't even really think of too many comedies that have a good sequel. I can't really think of too many movies that usually have a good sequel, like Aliens and Terminator, and that's it.
Right. Yeah. Well, fingers crossed for Super Troopers 2.
Yeah, I really hope it's good because I mean the first one has such a like historic like foundation in a lot of people our age and a little bit older's like heart. That it would be a real fucking crying shame if they really fucked it up for like a couple dumb I Am All That Is Man throwback references.
Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about it on the show if one of us sees it. But
but in 2 weeks now, Westworld.
Yeah.
I'm
so
jazzed.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to be honest. I'm optimistic.
Good. I'm glad because you divulged to me, I think maybe in our second episode, that you didn't like the first season, and that I didn't really like you too much anymore, and that I'm only contractually obliged to talk to you for an hour every week. Yeah, that's what our friendships become.
Your strict binding, dude, is this thing on contract.
My blood oath that I signed for some fucking reason while we were drunk in Reno.
Right. So next week we have a couple shows coming up. We have the end of A Way Out coming up, and we'll talk about Westworld after that.
Okay, I hate to be this guy. How long is A Way Out? Because I feel like you think we're going to pump it out in like another 2-hour session, but I feel like there's probably a good 6 hours left, dude.
Oh, so, no, I looked it up, and I think the game's like 5.5 hours total.
Really?
Yeah, okay, we can finish it.
We're halfway through. I guess there's not too much after we bust out of prison, because we stopped like right after we essentially like we're on the lam now. Yeah,
now we got to kill the Walter guy. Was the name Walter? No,
Hayden. Someone with an H. Hank. Javier. What's with the J? Yeah. That's a h sound though.
Harvey.
Harvey. Harvey. Hey, Harvey.
Harvey. All right. Good couple shows coming up. But in the meantime, if people want to find you on the internet, man, where can they do that?
The usual. Xbox Evil Elmo and Dude, Is This Thing On? We've spiffed up the site a little bit. Got ourselves a profile picture, so now it's not just a weird orange icon that doesn't fucking... Now that anyone's fucking seeing it. And we're working on moving over to SoundCloud to be with the cool hip-hop artists. Oh, fuck me, Emilio. Hip-hop artists on SoundCloud. So that's our next leap. And then after that, we're going to be on the Today Show.
Yeah.
We made it. That's how that works, right? It's a stepping stone.
Big bang boom. There we go.
Yeah.
You guys can follow me on Twitter at Tyler Daslick and read all of the great culture writing at relevantmagazine.com, including the review of Blockers that went up today with me and a couple writers. We did a little roundtable. It was fun.
Cool.
But that'll do it for this episode of Dude, Is This Thing On? For more episodes, you can find us on YouTube and now SoundCloud. And we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.